I'm here with James Shepherd, who was the creative director of the game we're going to be talking about, which was Ghost Hunter, which was developed by SE Cambridge way back in 2003, which
Dear.
is a while ago now. Even I'm feeling the age now. Um, but yeah, SE Cambridge was probably most well known for developing the original medieval games, Primal, the aforementioned Ghost Hunter, the PSP port of Little Big Planet, and
Mm.
before they became Gorilla Cambridge in 2012, and went on to develop Killzone Mercenary before unfortunately closing down in 2017. James, would you like to tell us a bit more about working at the studio?
Oh, I mean, that's a long time ago. I started at the company when it was Millennium, and it was just making a game, DEFCON 5, and that was coming out on the PlayStation. PlayStation was the newest thing, and I joined because I had a background in kind of film and kind of television, and I came to do some of the kind of cutscenes and cinematics. And I ended up working on a game, a Hasbro license for a TV show, Beast Wars Transformers. And that was a difficult project with Hasbro and was a kind of partial. It was a great first game to work on. It's not my highest sales or Metacritic rating, but it was great fun. And we worked with the TV company and we worked with Hasbro with the toys, and we've done that. And we come off the back of that, and the core group of there. Um, there was me, a guy called Andrew Kennedy, a guy called Pete Giles. We then transitioned to do Medieval 2 because Chris Sorrell and his team, who'd done Medieval 1, were moving on to Primal that you mentioned, yeah. And we got a very, very great brief for that from our new studio head, Simon Gardner, who's now the head of Climax. And he got Andrew and I into a room, and he was like, okay, so, we've been talking with Chris. Chris is going to go and do Primal, Medieval 2. It's Victorian England. You've got like 18 months, 1.8 million, and off you go. That was the kind of the nature of the brief. And we paired up with Jason Wilson, who was the kind of lead artist on Medieval One, and one of the creators of Medieval One, along with Chris, one of the kind of real architects of that game. And he was the lead artist on Medieval 2 with myself and Pete Giles. He was another key creative. James Busby, Julian Rex, and we had a great time on Medieval 2. Yeah, it was. I think it was a really good sequel, and it kind of built on the original, but honored the original. Original's a great game. And that had it won a BAFTA. The sales were good, and off the back of that, that core group jumped into Ghost Hunter. So that's kind of how we got to that point. And then, after Ghost Hunter, we did a whole lot of things. First there was Primal, then there was Ghost Hunter, then we did 24, and and just by dint of hanging around, I'd started as a junior artist, and I became the head of the studio about two-thirds of the way through 24. And then onwards, I did a kind of a 5-year stint, and I then went to Microsoft midway through like Killzone Mercenary that you were mentioning. So I had a that studio, Millennium, Sony. That was the kind of the real where I was forged as a game developer. Yeah, it was a great place, great people.
Ah, nice, cool. So we're going to be talking about Ghost Hunter, and so I guess the first question is, what were your influences for creating the game?
Well, it came out of a really interesting time, really, because we like I said, we'd done Medieval, and that was kind of a period of transition Simon Gardner, he left Sony. He went and started doing his own thing, and then eventually led to kind of Climax. And then the person above Simon, they transitioned out, and there was a moment in time where within our studio, my direct the person directly above me really was the head of all PlayStation. There was a kind of there was this just this little moment where we were kind of, hey, we know Chris and his team are doing Primal. We've done Medieval. Really, what should we do? And there was no one really to maybe rein us in a bit, really, I think. And so, like myself and Jason Wilson, and Julian Rex and Pete, and there was a designer Gareth Hughes. But the whole core team, we kind of ran riot in a way, and we just wanted to make a game that was all of the B movies, all of the horror movies, all of it from the fun ones to the really, really dark ones, all of the things that kind of drove us and influenced us. We just threw them into a big, big melting pot, and that was Ghosthunter in a way. So one of its great successes was it was incredibly diverse and kind of cross genre in within that kind of horror space. And that was also one of its failings, really. It was a kind of like it was a game. It was tonally uneven, wasn't it, in places? But like, so yeah, no, we really, we loved Fight Club, and so Lazarus Jones, he was, early versions of him, were very, very much like Brad Pitt from Fight Club. Yeah, he was the coolest male protagonist you could ever imagine at the time. Yeah, and
You,
uh, and
you
we
say
actually
you say
tried. We
that
actually
now, and I,
wanted to get
I
him.
suddenly see it. I never thought of that before, but now that you said it, I'm like, actually, you know what? I can actually kind of see the snarky retorts and stuff as sort of like Brad Pitt, Tyler Durden influence. And I'm just
Hey, this better not be scare the little old country boy night. Okay, I bet you got a welcoming committee, guys from Division down in the basement wearing Halloween masks, a body fresh off the slab, swinging from the rafters.
You think you're worth that kind of effort?
Yeah, pretty much.
I look like a prankster? Go to work.
like, actually, yeah, that actually makes a whole lot of sense because
He was, yeah, he was like Tyler Durden in a horror movie. Yeah, I mean, we should like imagine the film. It'd be a great movie. Yeah, so
yeah,
we were just doing all that kind of stuff. The swamps level was for obviously every kind of Deliverance, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, all of those things thrown together.
I will say when I was younger because because my first experience with Ghost Hunter was a friend lent it to me back in I actually can't remember what year now. I I must have been about 13 because I had gotten my PlayStation was a slim one, so I think which was kind of like the end of 2004. So I must have got lent the game early 2005-ish, I think. I was up, yeah, because I was about, again, it's like the time's so long ago now because it's blurring together. But but yeah, my friend lent me the game and I was playing a large chunk of it and then he wanted it back. So I had to sort of and this was kind of like I was a teenager, so I didn't have the luxury of being able to go on eBay and find just find a listing and get it. So I was checking sort of like Game and Game Game Station, which is another place that isn't around anymore. But I eventually found my own copy, bought it, and finished it. And yeah, it was like what I'd argue. I think probably the first third person shooter game I actually ever played.
Oh wow, really? Right.
Yeah. It was kind of like arguably the catalyst for me which kind of got me into checking out more sort of horror-esque games. So it got me in. Ghost Hunter is directly responsible for what got me into Resident Evil
Oh, brilliant.
and checking out like more horror movies and stuff. It, like I'd watched Ghostbusters like the films beforehand, but I was kind of definitely thinking I was like, oh, this game seems very similar to Ghostbusters a bit, and I was like, but I mean, was that like deliberate or
Um, was it deliberate? I mean, yeah, I guess so. We wanted to do a thing where the monsters were really, really rich and diverse and incredibly exciting. We'd want and like yeah, Ghostbusters is a great movie, so we were influenced by that absolutely. And we wanted to do that kind of capturing and fighting a ghost. I've just come off like 4 years of trying to do that on an actual Ghostbusters game, and it's a very, very kind of big design challenge, which was exciting to us at the time, and which again we had a good crack on it on Ghostbusters because like say you're playing Doom Eternal or Call of Duty or Fortnite or whatever first person shooter or shooter game is your cup of tea. Like it's a very, very binary kind of exchange between you and the NPCs. Yeah, you pull the trigger, the bullet leaves your gun, and like the bullet hits you, your bullet hits me, and I'm injured, you're injured, and like bang, 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 one is defeated, and then you move on. Yeah, but like Ghostbusters, the thing they kind of intimate in the film is it's much more like fishing. There's
yeah,
much more of a battle that it's an organic one-for-one battle between you and me. If I'm the ghost, you have to, tire me out. You have to move me around. You have to control me. You have to drain me of power and wear down my resistance. Just like if you're fighting some big fish in the ocean. And like, but in a movie, it can all just be done with effects and expressions and cuts and everything. And so when you're turning it into an interactive scenario with the ghost in the game experience, it becomes a much more difficult thing to engineer. And so that interested us with Ghost Hunter. And then obviously we couldn't do something that was absolutely going to get you sued by the film company or Ghost Corp. And so that's why we had the kind of Pokemon style. It was the disc, but it was basically a Pokeball, wasn't it? Yeah, you
yeah.
wore the thing down and used your Pokeball and all that, and
So it
so
had
yeah,
to be
no, it was influenced
legally
by
distinct
Ghostbusters.
enough that you couldn't get in trouble.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. But it was basically, to be honest, influenced by nearly everything. You don't often get a chance to have a free run at something, yeah. No matter how big you are creatively or how successful you are, there's always a brief. There's always I've just come out of a big stint with End Dreams and like, yeah, we did Ghostbusters. It was great, but there's always, the client and the stakeholder, what they want, what they need, what they require. And so Ghost Hunter was one of those rare times where we just did whatever ever we wanted, and I think that's some of that is for the benefit of the product and some of it is for the detriment of the product. So yeah, it really contained everything, like the big section on the haunted ship. I mean, that was influenced and inspired partially by a film called a real genre B movie called Deep Rising, which was a really great fun film with this giant kind of Krark and tentacle beast attacking this kind of cruise liner. Um, and the Alcatraz level was, inspired by the movie The Rock, the movie The Rock with Sean Connery and Nicolas
Oh yeah,
Cage.
yeah.
It's a fantastic old, movie. It was inspired by that, Escape from Alcatraz, and so some of the things weren't inspired by necessarily horror things. It was a bit influenced by other games as well. And then, like as I say, what the Swamps level was every Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Deliverance. Deliverance isn't a haunted film, but it's just a classic movie in the kind of like the bayou,
Yeah.
with the kind of indigenous inhabitants being the threat to you, the outsider. And And then like the final level was quite inspired by things like Terminator and Skynet and military bases and elements of Metal Gear, because Metal Gear had been out just before, hadn't it? And we absolutely loved Metal Gear. That was a PlayStation game, and we were a PlayStation team and studio, and it was just epic. It was just the best. You know what I mean? You were
Yeah,
part of the best thing. And so that inspired us. And then the very beginning, there's a crazy, mad, kind of like fantasy cutscene at the beginning that was a bit kind of Time Bandits and, Lord of the Rings-esque, wasn't it? Yeah. But like, yeah, it was everything, like everything everywhere all at once, like that movie title from a couple of years ago. We went for it. And then the other big thing that we were keen on was we wanted the ghost to be like nothing you'd ever seen. We wanted it to be the most incredible looking and audio and experience that you could have. Those were some of the key drives for it.
because like I did like the swamp level. I remember as a kid the crocodile enemies were like the ones that always used to like I don't want to say scare me, but they were the ones that I was like, ah, crap, I need to sort of like be careful with these guys because they were the ones that could like take a whole bunch of your health off like super quickly. And the swamp phantom was uh like one of the enemies that I was just like, this kind of freaks me out because he's so I don't want to say gloppy, but he was basically sort of like, he's he's
You mean
like,
the big boss that gets vomited out of the crocodile?
yeah.
Yep, I definitely ordered thin crust.
Yeah, because I was like, oh wait, so you find a giant crocodile, okay, that's cool. And then it's like, oh wait, he's puking up this kind of weird humanoid person that turns out to, oh, he was the and it's like after reading like well it was quite cool actually because in hindsight, like I didn't think about it at the time, but in hindsight reading sort of like all the info and stuff, it's like, oh, this is the the crazy old lady's son that had tried to rescue the little girl who got eaten by the crocodile. I was like, oh, okay, so this is what everything's referencing to. But yeah, him getting like vomited up, and he was just like, oh, this is sort of like he looks kind of creepy because he's just all slimy and stuff. So it was just like, but yeah, so that was kind of like horror-y, I guess, and but Lazarus Jones was very sort of comedic with all of his sort of quips and stuff. Because even now, me and my sister periodically reference the part where Hawksmoor goes,
Is this a dagger I see before?
No, it's a Glock 17, police issue.
we still periodically like reference that line because it's just so funny. But so like you were saying, it was like you were just mashing like everything together. So sort of like it didn't matter if it was horror or it didn't matter if it was comedy. You were just like, if it was good, you just decided to throw it in there.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, because we were just, I mean, we were not out of control. I don't want to say we were out of control, like, but we were a little bit. And there's always that thing. There's always that thing where you wanna. It's a game. It's a fantasy world. It's not reality. You want to push the boundaries a bit. You want people to get into the world and experience things they can't experience in reality, and hear people say and do things that can't happen in reality. And some of the things that really, really inspired and influenced us are those things. I'm trying to think of great examples. like Predator, the original Predator with Arnold Schwarzenegger. Yeah,
Yeah.
have you seen that movie? Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a
Yeah.
serious action movie. It's a serious action movie, isn't it? Yeah, but it has those moments where it will punch you and punctuate the tension and the drama with some incredibly kind of cool, funny things that organically come out of the situation that Arnie's in. Yeah, it's a genius script, brilliantly well delivered. And like there's the bit near the end where the Predator, where Arnie's fought so well that the Predator, he feels he's earned the right for hand-to-hand combat, doesn't he? Yeah. So he takes his
Yeah.
weaponry and he takes his mask off, doesn't he? Yeah. He takes his mask off, and the Predator looks amazing. It's probably maybe the third best alien creature ever designed. And Arnie goes, what does he say? He says, "You're one ugly motherfucker," doesn't he? Yeah.
Yeah.
And he is. The thing is, and you're like, shit, that's just what you're thinking. And then Arnie smacks him with a log on his face, doesn't he? Yeah. And the
Yeah.
president goes, "Oh," and he shakes it off. And Arnie just goes, "Bad
Yeah.
idea." And the
Yeah.
thing
he just looks at it and he's just like,
yeah,
oh, yeah,
and he just
that.
smacks the shit out of him. Do you know what I mean? And and so like, you're laughing, you laugh. It's brilliant. It's
I mean,
brilliant.
I also like the bit at the start where he throws the dagger into the guy.
Stick
Yeah.
around.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like, so we things like that, and things like another great example is Terminator 2. It's a fantastic cinematic, brilliantly scripted action experience, but it's still got brilliantly fun, just grounded enough exchanges between like John Connor and the T-800. You just can't go around shooting people. Why? Do you know what I mean? It's just like all the bit where the T-1000 is disguised as John Connor's foster mum, and like Arnie, the
Oh yeah, she's
T-800, he
she's
gets the
got
name of the
she's
dog wrong deliberately, and
yeah.
and she goes, "Oh, but Buffy's fine," and like he just goes like, "Your foster parents are dead." Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So we were very much into that kind of dropping in those things and stuff, and yeah, no, we had absolutely kind of great fun with it. And to be honest, going back to what you're saying about the enemies, like we were very much believers that like a great character design, like Long John Silver, yeah, he's a really good character. Yeah, he's got a wooden leg and an eye patch, and the whole history of what he's been through is visually in his character. Yeah, and so we were very keen on that. Yeah, so we loved the idea that the crocodile boss is part Granny's son and the crocodile, and this dreadful fusion of the two when they died together. And so yeah, and we thought, what would be more surprising and disgusting than like, yeah, this kind of big sack being vomited up, and then the crocodile becoming the big weapon on the kind
Yeah.
of toxic Avenger style creature's arms. And I remember Jason used to go, years and years later, we would, go out to universities or schools and colleges and, work with kind of students and show them about like character design and stuff. That character always went down brilliantly. And Jason would come back and go, "Oh, they loved it. All the students, really, really understood what we were trying to do." And, he was great. He was great at working on a vision together, and then visually coming up with what you've been thinking about together and stuff. And like I loved the little girls that turned into the teddy bear. It was a similar kind of mechanic, yeah.
Oh yeah.
That was cool. And because the idea was behind that was that little kids, they inject personality into their toys and play with their toys, and so that like a little ghost kid might do that to such an extent that the toy takes over and becomes the monster. Do you know what I mean? So it was all about that kind of imagination that children have going wrong and being super expanded, And so like I think some of the enemies were brilliantly designed, and great fun to fight against. Yes, I know it had its moments, that's for sure.
Something about I'm quite curious about is for me, like when I when I was a kid, I didn't clock onto it, but like looking back on it now, the shooting mechanic to me seems to be like one of the first instances of that sort of kind of like over the shoulder esque looking mechanic. Because like Resident Evil 4 and Gears of War sort of helped popularize it, but they came out afterwards.
Yes.
And like other third person shooters like at about the time were more sort of like had a more auto aim type scenario. So like um I mean I'm using like Ratchet and Clank as an example, but like that had like auto aim, and I know GTA had like an auto aim as well. And the only instance of a game that I can think of that had a aim reticle that came out before Ghost Hunter was uh, Max Payne, and I think the only other game that I can think of that came like because I think the Suffering games came out like round about the same time as well.
Mhm.
But like to me, Ghost Hunter seems to be like one of the first games where you could sort of press the aim button and aim the reticle to wherever you wanted it to.
Yes.
Was
It had
that like
it had like a very, very sophisticated interaction system. There were two combat modes, weren't there? Yeah, and then there was the ghost catching mode, and we really, really, really wanted to have all the freedom and expressive ability of a first person shooter and get it into a third person game without losing any of that. And in actual fact, the game we had a staged release, yeah, and we were asked to bring in the European release by about 6 months. And in all honesty, the combat system was not finished. So the one thing that really was good, I felt good about, was the version that's on the PlayStation Store now is a remastering of the Japanese version, which was the final version that we did,
ah,
which has that's got the combat system as intended. So if you, so I always say to anyone that asks, I say play that one, because when we released in Europe as a team, there was too much oversteer on the inputs on the sticks, and so you tended to sometimes overshoot what you were trying to aim, and it was a bit kind of not jittery, but like just yeah, a bit clumsy. And then we made it better for America because it was released by a different company and a different publisher in America.
so
And then
what
we made it best of all for the Japanese Namco version.
was the different distributors due to the fact that you were releasing it at different times?
Well, I think it's Europe wanted to bring it in, and we had some discussions around that with my boss actually. We had a he was like, yeah, bring it in, and I was like, it won't be that'll be tough. It won't be ready, and but we did it, and the end was quite tough on that project. But and then yeah, we were like it would have landed better in Europe if we'd had a bit more time to yeah, just iterate on the control scheme. And then we did that first for America and then for uh, Asian, Japanese markets. Because I think it was like came out in the autumn, came out before Christmas, kind of round about Thanksgiving time for Europe, and I think it came out like early summer for Japanese market. And so yeah, I was really pleased when I saw that I got it on the store when it came out last year, and I was like, please, please. And then it came up with the artwork that was the Japanese artwork, and I was like, thank goodness. Do you know what I mean? So they have remastered the best version.
So, like, because you had to bring it forward for Europe, I mean, I've read online that there was a lot of stuff that needed to be trimmed slash cut down. Was there like a lot of gameplay stuff that was trimmed, or was it like more kind of like levels and stuff? Because
No,
something
it's
I
more it's more I mean, it's a long time ago, so process is slightly different now. But like, but you get your game to you'll do a vertical slice, which is every piece of example gameplay in like in an hour long or a half hour long experience. You go, okay, the game is fun. And then you'll build out all of the levels and you'll get to alpha where the whole game experience is playable from start to finish. But there might be some grey box, might be some bugs, might be some, things that are totally unfinished. Then you get the beta where it's all finished but with bugs. And then like then you head towards release. And really the thing that suffered was not the levels or the content. It was just iteration time to iterate and like do user testing and get it in front of people. And because no matter how well you design a game or how good your team is, there's always things you don't miss, you don't see, you don't get. And if you're not doing enough user testing, you go, oh my God, yeah. Do you know what I mean? And I think that was the thing that the European release suffered from, rather than having to lose any content. It had a vast array of content, really, and all the, I don't remember the script being cut back or anything. So no, it wasn't. It was mainly in kind of like fundamental feedback loop and kind of player interaction and kind of overall feel that we did more work on it.
Oh, okay. It's just because like I remember when I was playing it, when you finish the ship level, and you go back to HQ, you go straight to the prison island. I was like, because I was like, oh, I really wanted to check out the ship ghosts and stuff in the array, and I was just like, oh, maybe it'll be the next level, and then it's like then I finished uh the prison island, then you go straight to the junkyard, and then you go to the government HQ, and I was like, oh, okay, maybe I was like, and I was thinking, oh, maybe you can do it like after you finish the game or something, and I was like, oh, you can't. I was just like, but so it was like that made me think, oh, maybe they had to sort of like try and cut some stuff, but if
I don't really remember things being cut in that. Did we have any levels that were cut? I don't think so. I mean, like on many games, you have a whole realm that you might lose, or a level or a big bit of functionality you have to lose. I don't really remember that with Ghost Hunter. The original plan we pretty much stuck to. Maybe we did like join a few things together a little bit quicker, but no, not really, not really.
oh, okay, that's actually it's quite cool to be fair. But yeah, and another thing was you there was kind of like some sequel baiting in there. Uh, was there a plan to do a sequel, or was it just sort of see how it goes, sort of thing?
I
Because
think we'd been doing Primal, and that was a big game. It had a bigger budget, slightly longer dev cycle. It was the lead project for our studio, and it's going really well. And then things like Grand Theft Auto arrived on the market, yeah,
yeah,
and Sony itself did the Getaway. Getaway was a smash hit, and the Getaway had some kind of rough edges, but was such an appealing kind of theme and location and world building was great. And I think like the Primal kind of like had a fan base, and I think our fans liked it, medieval fans liked it, and it looked incredible. But I don't think and so it didn't get the numbers to become a whole franchise and be a sequel. And we were aware by that time that like, maybe people didn't have the full support or buy-in of the whole organization. And the thing with Ghost Hunter as well is there had been a point in its development where I can't remember which way round it was, but like Europe had gone make it totally, funny, and America had gone make it totally horror. and we were like, we don't, and we were like, oh, we're being pulled in different directions, yeah, and like and we went for the where we went, which was, like I said, a slightly uneven tone, to be honest. And so we knew that
Well,
we
it's weird because like I mean minus the I guess the creepy enemies and stuff. I never thought of it as tonally bizarre. Like for me, everything sort of like worked. Like I don't know whether it was because at the time I was just like a 30-year-old who just wanted to like shoot stuff, and even now I still have the mentality of, oh, that's just funny, let me shoot stuff. But again, I still think it's sort of it's a nice sweet spot of horror and comedy because like loads of people I mean there's obviously an audience for it because everybody loves like the aforementioned like Ghostbusters. um there's the films like I mean I guess you could say like sort of like the latter era Friday the 13th and Nightmare on Elm Street because I mean, Jason X was the first Friday the 13th movie I ever saw. And I mean,
and
uh,
that was Jason in space, yeah.
yeah. And it's like, I mean, the concept, oh, wait, so the serial killer's in space and everybody's saying like these quips. Like, I remember the bit where he throws one of the teenagers onto like a giant screw and it's like, oh, have you found Dawkins yet? And it's like, yeah, where is he? He's screwed. And I was just like, even as a like 13-year-old, I'm just like, wow, that's I
Oh
was
yeah, and
like,
I think
it was cheesy, but I still loved it. But yeah,
I think you've hit on a good point. I think the other thing that, like, I totally agree with you, and I think the other thing is that, like, 25 years ago, as it kind of nearly was, yeah, that like between in the last 25 years, from the turn of the century onwards, culture's become more kind of diverse and more kind of cross-pollinating, and genres have become more cross-pollinated and have split into tiniest kind of sub-genres. And if you think about take a Marvel movie like Captain America: The Winter Soldier, yeah, that's a
yeah,
superhero movie, but it's also an espionage spy thriller like The Manchurian Candidate. It's kind of like The Manchurian Candidate, a political thriller smashed into a cape and action superhero movie, yeah.
and
And
it
and
ironically,
everyone accepts it. Everyone accepts it. They don't mind, do they? Yeah, and it's
yeah,
great. And
it's
but
it
but back then, when Ghost Hunter launched, um, I think things were slightly more within kind of boxes. Do you know what I mean? Within slightly stricter genre spaces. And now it's a bit more fluid. And I think in a way, it's kind of like ahead of its time. Slightly. Like we used to the early part of my career was spent with these occasions where people will go like, nobody wants to play a zombie game. Nobody wants to play one of your stupid fantasy things you like. Nobody wants to, do you know what I mean?
yeah,
And then but then those things came along and they were successful. I would have probably not made them successful if I'd done one, but I think things are much more um, yeah, much more kind of mix and match and cross-pollinated. And look at some of the Marvel things. They've done things that veer into total fantasy. They'll get something like Thor, who's a Norse god that's already a way out candidate, put him into a big action movie on the Earth, and then they'll take him and put him into space. But do you know what I mean? He's a Norse
yeah,
god from the Earth in space fighting. Do you know what I mean? Like 25 years ago, I think it would have confused. There were things that only existed in comics 25 years ago. Do you know what I mean?
yeah.
And we loved all that stuff. We read all that stuff. We loved, like, Frank Miller and Grant Morrison and all of those, and a load of those great British comic writers that had massively inspired us. And um, And like, yeah, now I think that people will be more accommodating of it. Yeah, like if someone bought it on the store now, I think there'd be far less chance they go, what is this weird mismatch of stuff? Whereas people did go, oh, I'm not quite sure what it is, when it first arrived. It's just the way culture's shifted and changed and grown.
Yeah. Something else I'm curious about is because obviously like when the game came out, this was like the sixth gen of like console, so it's like PS2, original Xbox and GameCube, and like the sixth gen seemed to be like when Hollywood started to take notice of video games as an art form, and it was kind of like feasible to have like voice acting and stuff. Like obviously you had it in games prior, but it was sort of like this generation where Hollywood like took notice. So I'm curious as to how did you manage to get Michael Gambon as Hawksmoor to do the voice?
Well, we were like I'd come from film and TV, um, and had been doing that for a couple of years. And then I did an MA. Then I got into games, and Chris, who was one of the kind of creative drivers of the studio, he had a interest in that, and Paul Darrow was one of the main voice actors in the original Medieval, who was a great British actor, great British voice actor, and he'd been a character Avon in Blake Seven, which is kind of niche cult, British TV show, and so we'd always loved that kind of stuff as a studio, and Medieval Two, again, we got like some great people we loved to be one of Sedan Fortescue's relatives made it into Ghost Hunter. We always loved
Oh
all
yeah,
that
he
kind
was
of stuff.
the World War.
The World War II guy,
Yeah, yeah,
Fortescue.
Colonel Freddie Fortescue, 3rd Regiment Royal Horse Artillery at your service.
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah. And he was voiced by a fantastic British voice actor that I can't remember his name. He was in Sharp, he was in loads of stuff. And the fact of the matter is, right, yeah, that like a lot of actors, it's a job where you're not working Monday to Friday. And I've only ever been turned down by about 3 actors. And like, if you want to get an actor, oh, I want that. I quite like want Patrick Stewart. Oh, I'd like to get Hugh Jackman. I'd like to, do you know what I mean? Like, you should go for wherever you want. And so we were just like, we always went. I loved Joe Morton and Jason and Pete, and we all loved Terminator 2. And Joe Morton was brilliant in Terminator 2. So we were like, yeah, let's get Joe Morton. We love him. Do you remember there's that scene where he's holding the bomb but he's dying? Yeah, he's going,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, I mean, it's slightly funny because it's slightly sexual in a weird way. Do you know what I mean? 'Cause it's a
Oh,
really close
oh,
camera.
the,
You
the
have to
amount of
say it
memes,
because
the amount of memes that have used that
absolutely,
is amazing.
absolutely. The people were laughing about that before you could meme it on the internet. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But he was brilliant, and yeah, no, to be honest, we wanted Brad Pitt, and he did turn us down. He's Brad Pitt, yeah. And so, but okay, and then we originally wanted Alan Rickman for Hawksmoor,
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
because I absolutely, he's just the best, yeah. He's just the best. He's brilliant in Die Hard. He's as a film Truly Madly Deeply. He's brilliant in that. He's just a fantastically good actor, and he didn't do it because it was too near other things that he'd already done. Yeah, do you know what
Yeah.
I mean? That I'm be like, okay, and then and so Michael Gambon, he was like, okay, there's a great bit in the movie Hearts of Darkness, which is the documentary about the making of Apocalypse Now, where Francis Ford Coppola is going, if I can't get Brando, I'll get Martin Sheen. I can't get Pacino, I'll get this guy. If I can't get Pacino, I'll get Keith. Do you know what I mean? He's just
Yeah.
listing
Yeah.
them. And so we do that, yeah. We can't get Alan Rickman. All right, then. Well, what about Pacino? Not Pacino. What about Michael Gambon? And yeah, we got Michael Gambon. Yeah, he was Hawksmoor, wasn't he? Yeah, and then other roles we got like really professional, excellent video game voice people. Isn't Lazarus Jones Rob Paulson? Rob Paulson.
Yeah, he's the guy who voices Yakko in the Animaniacs.
Good night, everybody.
That's right. That's right. And for like a recent game that we did when I was at End Dreams Synapse, we got the voice of Solid Snake um, to be the main bad guy, yeah. And it's just a thrill, and it's just a thrill when they're saying lines in a script that you've had some input into, and
Yeah,
they're saying the words that your team have come up with, and yeah, it's great. It's great. And like so, we had some great fun coming up with. I love it when you come up with or the team come up with like real line, those kind of lines that stick, like you mentioned, that stick with you, and years later you're still going. Do you know what I mean? You're still saying whatever the stupid thing is. You know what I mean? It's good. It's good.
yeah. So like again, going back to the sequel idea, was there a plan to do a sequel, or was it sort of was it all dependent on sort of like sales and stuff?
It's always dependent on sales, yeah. And we would have done a sequel for sure, but it was a bruising project as well. It was, like we worked really, really hard on that, and like we really wanted it to be as good as it could be, and it was a love child and a love letter to everything that a lot of stuff that we really liked, and we thought the script was good fun and had some good, it was about some good, interesting things. Fundamentally, it was like it was about what is a human being, what is it to be human, yeah, like that was one of the key messages, wasn't it? Like, with there's a good scene between the professor and the robot version of the professor, because the professor is the one that betrays everybody. He's like Judas, isn't he? Yeah. And like in the end, the robot version of him, the digital version of him, is kind of like it has more kind of morals and more ethics, more, and and which one is the real version of the professor, the one that's been broken over time, or the one that is this perfect digital version? And so and like
And
it was
actually thinking about what you said about now that you've said that, I'm thinking about your what you're saying about the Terminator influence, and I was just like, actually, you know what? That actually does remind me of sort of like Terminator 2, and how like the bit near the end where it's like, oh, I know now why you cry. It's
I mean,
like,
do you know what I mean?
yeah,
Absolutely, absolutely. Because I mean, I'd worked at a cinema when I was at university, and so some of those films of that era I'd seen about 50 times, because you had to sit there, make sure nobody was smoking or doing anything stupid. And like, yeah, I know now why you cry, but it is something I can never do. It's brilliant. It was
yeah,
brilliant, wasn't it? And like, so yeah, all that stuff fueled what we wanted to do. And we had that it was a ghost game. We had a big giant robot that you could play in the end level. You played the robot for a bit, didn't you? Yeah, you had to
yeah.
stomp around, and um
I will say it
it was
was.
all good.
I think
And we always were very influenced, like the thing, like in Metal Gear, like Hideo Kojima would always do things that were unexpected. He was so brave and so brilliant like that. And we were these little kids who were, totally admiring what he was doing. And so like in Medieval 2, we killed Dan's kind of romantic interest. The Egyptian, I think it's Kia, wasn't she? Kia, the Egyptian princess. We killed her. Jack the Ripper killed her dead, and Dan left the game, didn't he? He left the mission. He just wandered off, and the game took a massive, giant turn. Yeah, and so, and in Ghost Hunter, we killed him, didn't we? We killed Lazarus Jones, and
I will say that was generally like I remember the first time I played it, I was just like, and you die. I was just like, wait, what? I was like, I didn't what? And it actually has like the game over screen and everything. And I was generally
Yeah.
thinking, and I was just like, wait, what? It's like I wasn't playing. I was like, that was a cutscene. I was just like, and it got me proper confused for a bit. And I was genuinely confused. I remember like yeah, like 13, 14. I'm just like, what? Is that the end? I was like, and then it's like it's there just long enough that you sort of start questioning it, and
Hmm.
then you become the spirit and you end up sort of like going through the tubes and stuff. I was like, oh wait, okay, so this is like it's still going. It's just like, but that bit was sort of like genuinely like did make me think. I was like, oh okay, that's weird. But I mean, like obviously, like you can only really do it once because when
Yes.
I
Yeah, it's that Spielberg thing, yeah. You can
yeah
only jump scare somebody once and in a movie, and then after that they're prepped for it, yeah. They
yeah
know it, you know. And so you got to do different kind of scares and different kind of tricks with the audience. And but we were always massively into that. And like because like yeah, it's like sometimes you want a cozy experience, don't you? Yeah. Sometimes you want to sit on the sofa with your loved ones, with your friends, and you go, oh, it's Friday the 13th. I know all the rules. I know what's going to happen. I know how it's all going to pan out. And I'm totally fine with that. That's great because that's what I want. Whether it's kind of like a rom-com movie, horror movie, or whatever. But like sometimes you do want to be genuinely like, oh my God, do you know what I mean? And like
yeah.
you do want to be thrown a curveball. You do want everything to be taken away from you. Or and like yeah, well, and then so like, because we loved Hideo Kojima and Metal Gear and Sons of Liberty and all that whole sequence of games that he made and so we were very much influenced by that and like that, just mucking around with the player's expectation, I guess.
Okay, yeah, because I mean, again, that is, I still remember that because it's still arguably, I don't think I've actually had um that happen to me in any other game I've played. So it's sort of
Well,
like,
we wanted one person, yeah, one person to go, fuck, game over. Oh no, and like turn it off, really annoyed, and then meet someone else who played it and go, no, you muppet. Do you know what I mean? Oh,
yeah,
you want that. You want to create those moments. That's what it's all about. And that's what it's all about. It's that's the art of it, I guess. And it's
yeah.
weird. It's really weird. Like because you push forward doing new things and looking in new places and everything. And then occasionally, yeah, you meet someone who goes, "Oh yeah, that thing you did." You know what I mean? It's great. It's great.
So did you have any initial story ideas for a hypothetical sequel, or were you just sort of kind of like sort of
No, not really. Not.
yeah,
I think maybe there's something. Maybe if someone dug through all of the the archives and the difficult thing is, yeah, is you don't own the game. You're working on the game for a company, and then you'll leave the company, you'll move on, or a studio will shut and things become archived, and members of the team might have different little bits of design bibles, you know what I mean, scattered around, like debris after an explosion, and so I can't really recall that we ever did a lot of work on what the sequel would be. It kind of wrapped itself up pretty well, didn't it? Yeah, that there could have easily been
it was
a
one of those
sequel.
ones where it's like it did wrap everything up, but there was like there was like an option that is, which I guess is probably, which is probably kind of like, I guess, the best way to do it because the amount of times I've seen stuff where it's sort of blatant sequel baiting and like it gets cancelled or whatever for whatever reason. So you're always kind of annoyed because it's just like, well, they left everything sort of hanging there. So it's just like, so you're kind of annoyed at that. And then you get the ones which wrap stuff up quite nicely. And then they try a sequel. And then it's just like, well, you're just kind of like undoing stuff
You're
from,
done. Yeah, you're
yeah,
done. The whole
yeah,
thing was there, and now there's no need.
yeah. So you're kind of
Yeah,
like you're unraveling stuff to try and stretch it out a bit
yeah,
more,
yeah,
and then it's
yeah,
just
yeah,
sort of
yeah.
like it's sort of really it's like so it's I guess the best kind of way is to have sort of it wrapped up, but with a thread that can be sort of like carried on with if
Or you take it to a new status quo,
yeah
but then you can carry on being a ghost hunter. There's more realms to go to. There's
yeah
more mysteries to untangle for sure. That's great. So it could have carried on. I think we left it in a good place. But you're totally right.
because I
Um,
guess for me like I think the only things that I was sort of really curious of like I mean I think the main um question I had like when I finished the game was there was the uh people that Hawksmoor was talking to saying oh we need the chosen one which was like Astral I guess and then the other sort of questions I had was probably sort of I guess like Astral's origins and like what actually happened to Professor Brook because something I always learned from my mum and like my parents and stuff in regards to like films is if you don't see the body, they there's always a possibility that they're not dead. so it's like oh that yeah they were in the building when it exploded, but you didn't see the body, so it's like they
yes.
could have
Yeah, yeah.
survived. But yeah, so it was sort of like for me, it was the only real sort of things I would have liked to have seen, I guess, was sort of like who were the people Hawksmoor was talking to, a bit more info on Astral, and I guess what happened to the professor. But like you said, everything was sort of like wrapped up nicely anyway. So it's like Lazarus
It's
saves
that
his,
terrible thing, yeah. It's the terrible thing that like because there's certain things that I'm a real fan of, and yeah, and you always look for that stuff because you're into it, you love the world, and but the honest truth is that like some of the things on the peripheral of the adventure are just dramatic devices.
yeah,
Do you know what I mean? I couldn't tell you who the people Hawksmoor were talking to was. Do you know what I mean? And I wrote
yeah,
the script, and like, and if someone said to me, not that they ever would, but if someone said to me like, oh, let's do let's carry on the story, there'd be a way to carry on. But I view it, like I say, as a perfectly encapsulated love letter to all the things that we liked in our kind of youths growing up, and yeah, it's a finished kind of story,
yeah. Okay, cool. Yeah, that's pretty cool. Uh, I guess I have to ask the stereotypical you YouTuber questions is um is there like what are you currently doing now then? So,
Oh, I mean, like,
are you still in
um,
working in the games industry or
oh, yeah, 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 yeah. So, like, I mean, like, yeah, we did that game. Then we were doing 24. PlayStation 3 was on the way. And like 24 was a difficult project. I kind of took that over, and then we were running the studio, um, and we made we made loads of different games with nearly everyone in the organization at Sony, and then a lot of the core team that had worked on Ghostbusters, we're still looking at we're still there, and worked on Little Big Planet PSP, and there was Medieval PSP, wasn't there, and all this kind of stuff. We did like loads of games. We never did a proper Medieval sequel. I think that was something that like people in the studio wanted to do, but like yeah,
did you
other people
have
in studio.
any input on the remake that came out a couple of years ago?
I think Chris and Jason did. I think they consulted on it,
Oh, okay.
and so yeah, that was good. That was cool. And like, but I don't know. I don't really know how well that did. And like, and I left Sony like I think midway through Killzone Mercenary, and then I was at Xbox for kind of Xbox One, and I did a big kind of project called Upload, which was like a kind of community-driven content initiative on Xbox, and worked with all the games makers on that platform. That was kind of brilliant. And then I did my own thing for a bit, and then I've been at Lego in their design department, in their creative play lab, doing top secret stuff with them. And then I have just finished just over 4 years with End Dreams, and we made a Far Cry game, a game called Fract for the PlayStation, a game called Synapse for the PlayStation, and then Ghostbusters: Rise of the Ghost Lord for PlayStation and MetaQuest, and then we relaunched Fract on the Quest this summer, and we did a big movie tie-in as well for Frozen Empire with the Rise of the Ghost Lord stuff. So I've been doing VR for like 4.5 years,
Oh, okay.
which I really really love. But the VR market's really tough at the minute, even
I
tougher than the overall games market. If you like kind of Ghostbusters and Ghost Hunter, I mean, sorry, I think Synapse will be a game you could quite enjoy as well. Fract as well, like but that on PlayStation, that's only on PSVR 1, but on Quest that's on Quest 3. That's got the same kind of fun punk energy as Ghost Hunter, I think. So yeah, I enjoyed working on that. Game director Steve Watt, and Martin Field, producer. He's now at EA and stuff. So yeah, no games. I love making games.
So yeah, that's all we've got time for Ghost Hunter. So thanks again, James, for blessing me with your time. Would you like to say anything else, or?
Well, I guess we talk more about like the influences in the films that we like than the game itself. So if you ever think up any more questions, like fire them over for video too. Otherwise, great to meet you and see you again sometime.
Thanks again. Cheers.